Hello, everyone. Welcome to our webinar tonight. My name is Priyanka Chadha. I'm the National Participation Program Lead at Motorsport Australia. Before we begin, I'd like to acknowledge the traditional owners of the land that we're all dialing in from, and I'd like to pay my respect to elders past and present. I'd also like to thank Michelin for presenting tonight's webinar. I'll hand over to Girls in Track Ambassador Kate Peck, who will host this session. And thanks for joining us, Renee.
Thank you.
Exciting. Okay, hi everyone. I'm so glad you can join us from wherever you are in this great country, or perhaps even internationally. I'm Kate Peck, motorsport and motoring journalist and enjoyer of motorcycles, wine, and good times. And I've known Renee for a few years now. I think in this game of motorsport, sometimes you often only see and celebrate the driver or even the rider, but getting them out there in the right car with the right support is a massive team effort. Renee, people know you as Supercars driver Mark Winterbottom's wife, but what they might not know about is the huge amount of work that both you and him collectively put into building his brand. While Mark is out there competing on the track, you're behind the scenes managing the business. Renee, you've grown up around motorsport. Your dad and younger brother raced go-karts. You spent most of your weekends at the track, and that's no surprise where you also met Mark. As the business manager, you look after sponsors, scheduling, the financial and tax side, and the business along with raising three boys. So that is just insanity to me. I have one and I'm dying. It is a lot. So thank you so much for joining us tonight. We're really pumped to have you. For everybody attending live, we'll chat with Renee for about 30 minutes and then have a Q&A session. So if you've got any questions, we will get them answered, drop them in the Q&A box and pop them in while we're chatting, and we'll look at answering hopefully as many as we can by the end. So, Renee, after my long spiel, managing Mark and the business, what does this actually mean?
Well, it's interesting. I don't think people realise, but racing car drivers are contractors. So they're not employees. They don't just run under the race team. They have a business that is built around them. So early on, you're a young driver and you get a contract and that's all great, and then you think, hang on a minute, how am I going to do all of this? So it was a huge learning curve, and most drivers end up outsourcing it quite early on to get that foundation, but we did do that, and we found that everyone wanted to deal with Mark as the driver. So eventually, after finishing university and working in marketing for a number of years and doing a lot of his work on the side, I became full-time employed with MJW Racing Services. So when I say there's a business built around a racing car driver, I'm talking about them providing two things. One is a service, and that's their driving ability and their skill on the track. But they are actually also a product. And when I say that, I'm referring to them being a marketable product based on their image, their voice, and their likeliness. And to a degree, them being a public figure. So my day-to-day running of the business encounters administration, calendar management is enormous. It's like day-to-day, down to the hour. Email management as well. This industry is fast-paced in every aspect, so people won't wait for responses. So it's a big part of the job, making sure that you respond in a timely manner. Then, of course, there's the typical areas of finance and marketing, but we also have contracts. So whether it's with a race team or a personal sponsor, we have individual contracts. So there's the aspect of writing the contract and also negotiating the contract. And then we need to service and seek personal sponsorship. So most drivers own their helmets and a percentage of space on their race suits. So they're able to sell that and have another revenue stream from that. So there's a lot of work that goes in with that. And there's also the liaising with the race team themselves, which is a day-to-day thing. There's always questions and booking of interviews and all sorts of things. And we have an amazing relationship with Team 18. So there's multiple emails sent every day, and they involve us in every decision and booking of Mark's time. So that's a wonderful, wonderful experience. So in terms of the marketable side of a race car driver, when I talk about their image, their voice, their likeliness as a brand asset, it can be a very profitable income stream if done correctly. So the driver needs to want this though. So it's not just something that I can do. They need to have particular skills and interest in representing themselves in a particular way and opening up their life and personality to not only their supporters, but also to sponsors. So the brand intellectual property that I look at when I look at Mark is his name, his nickname, his presentation and appearance, his personality, his fitness, his media skills, his ability to engage with supporters, being relatable and likable, and his capacity to represent brands as an ambassador, both for his race team and his personal sponsors. So that's kind of where I'm at in terms of the business and the service and the product and how I look at it as a business.
Yeah, it's so all-encompassing. How long have you been managing him for? Was it a steep learning curve for you? And I guess it was constantly evolving as well. You've got to kind of get that edge too.
Yeah, well, like you said, I grew up at the go-kart track, and my role there was actually writing sponsorship proposals and looking after my brother. So we wrote a proposal and we'd go to local businesses and network with my dad's sort of industry, and we had a go-kart full of sponsorship and had some merchandise made up, and you know, right from a young age I learned those skills. And I think the biggest skill that you carry through from that age is being able to talk to people, to sell yourself or sell a product and build a relationship and maintain it. So yeah, that's sort of where it started for me. So just carried on from there, really.
Yeah.
Don't feel like it was a massive learning curve because I felt reasonably comfortable in the industry and understood how it worked.
Yeah, and oh my God, there's so much time that you must spend with each other as well. Like, you
Yeah.
must get a bit sick of each other at some stage. Like, do you have to sometimes keep him in line when he's being a rock star or being precious? I mean, you probably have to be a bit of a hard-ass bitch as well.
It works kind of well because I do all of the behind the scenes work so that he can just focus on driving and interacting with sponsors and doing what he does best. So in a way, like, I work independently. There's not a lot I have to ask of him, and when I do, we have really good conversation about things. So no, it works quite well, and we do spend a lot of time together. I work from home, although you know, these drivers, when you do sell them as a brand, a component of that is appearances for sponsors, whether it's for a race team or a personal commitment. So he does travel a lot to fulfill those commitments as well.
Yeah. So obviously they're integral. Sponsors are integral to race car drivers and their teams, and you're, as you mentioned, a big part of finding these sponsors and servicing. How do you get them involved, and how do you show them a return on their investment? Are you really out there on the hunt? I know a lot of Frosty's sponsors are a repeat business as well. How does that work for you?
So early on, we found that building Mark's intellectual property, so that product, that brand, was a really key part of it. So the results on track paired with his personality, his likability, his ability to talk, his ability to represent, people knew what they were getting, meant that from early on, we were presented with opportunities with personal sponsors, and we learned how to build relationships. You get exposed to many companies in this sport. You're meeting people on a daily basis at a race meeting, and sometimes it's as simple as identifying the people that are showing interest and asking the question to see if they would be interested in sponsoring Mark. And if they say yes, then we would pursue that with a personalised sponsorship proposal and make it interactive. We put their logo on his helmet and on the race suit and say, this is what we can give you. This is his value. This is where he's at in the sport. And with the results, as the years went on, the easier it got, because he became iconic in the sport and people saw value, and it got to a point very quickly where we had people approaching us and we didn't have to go out searching for personal sponsors. And Mark did a wonderful job from very early on of servicing sponsors, both for race teams and for himself personally, which meant they've stuck by him. But what you want to do is take the sponsors on the journey with you. So it's a two-way relationship. You want them to be part of the success and the failure, and you want them to become invested in what you do week in, week out. Like when you're winning, they want to feel that excitement. And when you're losing, they want to feel that heartache, and they want to talk to you. So as a driver, you have to put in the work and build the relationship. And I help maintain the relationships by servicing the sponsors with information and back and forward communication. So we knew what we had to sell, and we did outsource sponsorship proposals and make sure we were always presenting professionally, but we would always meet in person. So we would send out things potentially for a first contact and follow up with a face-to-face with Mark and I, if it was possible in the right state. And I think that was key too, because people got to know Mark, they felt invested, he was likable, and it went from there. We built relationships, and some of our sponsors have been with Mark for 10 to 15 years. So then in terms of...
you fly to see these sponsors?
Yeah.
You fly in to see them? Yeah, great.
And then
even if they're small sponsors.
In terms of servicing them, I realised that it was really hard to quantify what we were doing and what we were getting for them. So we created a coverage report. So it was covering things like news media, whether it was television, print media, and then television coverage of Mark and his helmet on each race. And we also included things like social media reach, because you have all of that amazing data. And I was able to get some metrics through the motorsport industry and actually put dollar figures next to everything and have, a couple of $1 million overall dollar figure in the report that I gave sponsors. And I'd customize it for this sponsor and that sponsor, because every sponsor got access to different things and certain amount of social media posts, and I could show them how that was performing and how they couldn't pay for that reach, even if they wanted to just sort of put a post out on their socials. So that was extremely valuable in Mark's intensive part of his performance. So for a 5+ year period there, we were able to really maximize that income stream by showing sponsors how much coverage they were getting, and it was easy for them to re-sign on because the evidence was there.
Yeah, and obviously it is strong social following is key. How do you leverage that? How do you approach social media to connect with fans and provide that value to sponsors? Would you say that is sometimes more important than the television coverage?
When I studied a Bachelor of Business, social media didn't really exist. So marketing has changed so much, and it continues to, so you're forever learning. But I remember setting up accounts and, it started to grow. If you got in early, you really did have a great response, because it's so easy for supporters of the sport to get so much information. So we learnt that very quickly, and Mark and I both wanted to be very genuine with fan interaction. So we provided them with updates directly from Mark's words, and that was always a priority of mine. And he felt very humbled and privileged to have that support. So we wanted to engage and show appreciation by providing information and a special insight into Mark's thoughts, feelings when racing, and then also his life. It's amazing how you used to look at the post and think, wow, people are more interested in seeing you with your children than they are seeing you in a race. Or so they had that insight as well, that fascination. And I remember seeing tens of thousands of followers like jump up as he won Bathurst. I was sitting there and we were working on posts and responding to fans, and it was like, oh my goodness, look at this. And we were just watching the count, like unbelievable. So it got to a point where this became a key area for our reporting in our coverage reports, and each sponsor saw a lot of value in Mark's social media. And through our networks over the years, we had a wonderful sort of marketing person come to us that had moved on from a company, and he said, he called me and he said, Renee, do you realize how powerful this social media platform is of Mark's? And I said, what do you mean? And he said, I work for such and such company, and I can't put a dollar value behind it to achieve the reach you're getting on a post. I thought, wow, okay, so this is really, really valuable. And then I was able to onsell that to sponsors and explain that and how that could benefit them as well. So absolutely, and social media and interaction with supporters is still key, and something we have always taken very seriously and enjoyed. Like, it's all very genuine for us, and Mark's always been very, very grateful for the supporters he has.
Yeah. You also took on Tanea McLeod. You kind of had her under your wing, gave her an opportunity to create content for Mark, and now she is taking over this space. She is a goddamn guru. It's so great to see. For the younger generation who might be going to teams, to drivers, to clubs, to get work experience, what are some of the professional expectations you have from an intern or a volunteer or somebody just starting out?
Well, I think you need to know that you have skills that we don't have. So first of all, identify what you can give a driver or a team or a sponsor or whatever area you're interested in. But in terms of this, I'm always looking for maturity and professionalism. Even from a young person, I want to see that you're going to be representing us and our brand. So I want to know that you're professional and mature and reliable in what I'm requiring from you, but also responsive is a huge, huge important skill. So as I said before, this business is fast in every respect. So turnaround times are very important. And I would recommend you over deliver in a short turnaround time rather than look at fine tuning and detail in a long turnaround time. As well as that, practice conversation skills. So we all have different education, but we can all practice talking and making sure we present well, ask the right questions. Like, I want to teach people. I'm more than happy to give information and help people learn. So there's no silly question, and go for it. Ask as many questions as you want. And like, you look at who you want to work with and identify an area that you could improve or assist or help them with, and sell that to them. And lastly, always be honest and open with your fees. So, you know, you might do some work experience at first, but very quickly you will be getting paid for this work. And if your fees are changing, always be upfront and communicate that, because it builds bad business if you send an invoice and it's a couple of $100 more than what it was the week before and it's the same amount of work. So be really open and honest with your fees to make sure that you have a good working relationship that will last a lifetime.
And as you mentioned before, in terms of what you did study and worked in the area you worked in originally, you studied a Bachelor of Business in Entrepreneurship, which actually seems so appropriate, and went on to work in marketing. How have you found these experiences have helped you with managing a race car driver? Do you think it was key to go to university?
No, I don't. But it is key to have skills in the area that interests you. So my dad had his own business and I would help him improve the operation of his business. So I was always interested in business. And I do believe my Bachelor of Business has helped me with the overall understanding of running a business. But I think industry experience is the most important thing that you can get, and identifying opportunities and areas that you can improve. And marketing has changed so much since I did my Bachelor of Business. So to be honest, it's really not all that relevant. And I require skills from people now that I don't have, and I will outsource that. So yes and no is the answer to that question.
Yeah. And you're also one of very few female athlete managers in motorsport. Being in a male-dominated sport, what are some of the challenges that you have faced?
You know, I never really have referred to myself as Mark's manager because I feel like it's almost a bit of a dirty term. There's no doubt that it's challenging, whether it's for me as a woman or just as that management term in general. I look at it and I see that the race team or the sponsor, they want to deal with the athlete. They don't really want to deal with this person beside them. So the key to that is building relationships and showing that you take your role seriously, that you've got everyone's best interests at heart, and that your athlete is going to perform best if all of this other business is looked after by someone who has those skills. So I think that's really been the key, is I've just put my head down and done the work. And I look at the business that we've got and that we created, and it's extremely successful. So yeah, it's an interesting role, and it definitely needs to be managed correctly, and it's all about relationships and building credibility and just doing your role, and it will come.
Yeah, and I guess as a manager, you're also a bit of a life coach. Well, I mean, you are so much more, obviously, with the family and everything. But are there a lot of? Do most drivers have management these days, and has it changed since you started?
Most drivers have management. I think everyone comes into it with that sort of family aspect. It might be a father that sort of helps them get into a race team, and then very quickly they learn that, hang on a minute, my driver athlete is requiring a business around them. So generally a manager will play a huge role in anyone's career, whether it's a family member or completely outsourced, and most drivers in pit lane have management.
Yeah. For those looking to follow in your footsteps, what are some of the key skills they should look at developing?
Touched on this a little bit, but again, just consider what you have to offer. Where do your passions lie, and what best fits into the industry? So remember, every driver has a business, as I've said, which require administration, calendar management, email management, finance, marketing, social media, contract writing, contract negotiations, servicing and seeking personal sponsors, and liaising with the race team. So they're the main areas that that I work in. And then for the type of people that I would outsource to, photographers, graphic designers, social media managers, lawyers, accountants, bookkeepers, and possibly I could have done with a personal assistant over the years. So they're the sort of areas that I think there are opportunities for anyone looking to work closely with a driver and their management.
Yeah, I guess it's a really good example of, you know, whatever you're going to do in life, mixing it with your passion that is motorsport, you know, being one of those people that you look to for outsourcing.
Exactly.
Yeah. And so you've attended quite a few of our Girls on Track events. You've met our participants face to face. What's some hard-hitting advice you give to young girls who are looking at roles in the motorsport industry?
I loved attending the Girls on Track day at the Grand Prix. I just thought, oh, I would have loved to attend this as a young girl and gain that confidence in the industry, and also have the opportunity to build a network. To be honest, like, thanks to this, I feel like my network of females in this industry has extended and is more approachable now than it was a couple of years ago. So I'm really thankful to even have been introduced to this, and I'm more than happy to assist any of the young girls wanting to sort of get information and network and build relationships as well with me. But I love a good first impression, so you know, I think that's really important, being able to shake someone's hand, remember their name, practice that by, when you meet me, say my name 3 times in your head, and hopefully it sticks, because you will meet a lot of people, and that is one of the biggest challenges in this industry, is remembering people's names. Nobody wears name tags, so you've got to learn that skill. It is an absolute skill. And then work on relationships. So it's something that Mark and I have learned over the years, and we continue to do, is you've got to stay in contact with people. You have to be front of mind and never stop learning about them and your industry as well. So show interest in people's lives that you're working alongside, and just continue to build the relationship, because it will then bring you opportunities. So put yourself out there, even if you're nervous, because I'm actually quite a nervous person. So put yourself out there, and you'll be amazed once you start to build a network that will help you build confidence. And you will learn so much just by talking to people, and gain confidence and direction from talking to people at things like this Girls on Track development days. And then from then, I've got some notes here. So knowledge is power, and you have an enormous opportunity to learn through this program. So don't take it for granted, and really use it, and find the category or the team or the driver or sponsor that appeals to you, and marry your offering or your skill set, and then sell yourself to them, because you'll be surprised. Everyone's looking for that edge or something that makes them stand out or improve their offering.
Yeah, totally. And if you don't ask, you don't get. So as you're saying, put yourself out there and get communicating. And also, I think what was important is that maintenance of relationships, because there's nothing more annoying when somebody who you know only calls you once a year because they want something.
Absolutely.
Yeah, so it's just good to, you know, send them that 1 month email every, you know, 6 weeks or whatever, just to touch base. So you can use them down the line.
Take note of people's
Um,
birthdays or significant things they've got in their life. They have a baby, give them a call, send them some flowers. Like, but be genuine. But these are life skills that anyone can develop and work on. It's just important in all aspects of our life to maintain relationships, not only through social media though. Is my tip.
yeah.
Yeah. If you've
Yeah,
got
that
somebody's email, make personal contact. It doesn't count just saying happy birthday on a social media post. Like, make the effort to pick up the phone.
totally, like that will make you stand out rather than a comment on a post.
Agree.
And just finally, you've got a bit of a new passion. Well, it's probably not new. You've probably had it for most of your life, but nutrition. It sounds like you've been hitting the books and doing some study around it. Do you think we'll see you doing a little bit more in this space?
Yes, it has always been a passion of mine. So at a racetrack, I would always be looking after Mark's nutrition as well and researching what should he be eating and what's going to make him sort of have the energy at the end of a race. And so I'd be there with my noisy NutriBullet, putting a concoction and juice together. And yes, so I've just graduated as a functional nutrition consultant, which I absolutely loved studying. So I will be transitioning into consulting and educating people. I haven't gone down the rabbit hole yet. I've literally just graduated, but I will work with athletes in all sports. I'll work with families like my own. I'd love to work with educating children from a very young age upwards and their parents with them, and just improving people's health through nutrition and education, because it's something that the education we don't get at school, and unless you have a mum and a grandma that have really taught you those basic principles, then everyone needs a nutrition consultant.
Oh, totally. I think that's fantastic. Yeah, we could all use one, I would say. It's so amazing that you managed to squeeze that in with everything that you do and with 3 children. I think that's also an important point to make, that just because you have kids doesn't mean you can't do what you want in your career and your life. You just find a way to make it work. Right, Renee? With 3,
yes. Yes, yeah, multitasking is important.
Yeah. Okay, well that's it from me. Now I would like to check the Q&A. Priyanka, have we got some questions in there?
Yeah, we've got plenty. I'll start with a
Great.
So you touched upon this initially, which is sponsorship. What are your top 3 recommendations, tips, how to get sponsors?
Okay. Well, yes, we did talk about this. So for me, it's really important that a driver is invested in wanting to, first of all, service a sponsor themselves. So when we have sponsors, I like to put a sponsorship proposal together. You can be really clever about this. Every company has a marketing budget. Just remember that. And a lot of companies look at grassroots and they want to support young athletes. So be really creative in who you target and build that brand and that IP of the athlete. And that is in their name, their nickname, their presentation, their appearance, their media skills. So I like to see young drivers talk. So my tip would be, have a component in your proposal that has a video on the front cover. And I want to know about the driver. Talk to me. Tell, like, we're interacting now, and you get a good feel for someone. If it's just all writing, is that going to really push me across the line? Probably not. But if I hear you talk and I hear you talk with passion and I see that you're really hungry for this career, that might make the difference in me giving you some money. And sell yourself, sell the space on your car, sell the space on your helmet, sell your social media. That basis has to be there. You have to have a social media presence, and you have to be very conscious of what you do and don't put on social media, because companies will look at that. They'll look at your previous content and they'll see if you fit their brand guidelines. That big companies have brand guidelines and it's very important to them. And I do find they're particularly fussy with female drivers and how they present themselves and how they come across professionally. So be very mindful of that. So build your brand, make sure you can talk, and have a really great sponsorship proposal that's not too long, only 2 pages, and including a video, what you're selling and what you can offer the sponsor, and a bit, make sure you cover who you are and the category, and if it's a support category to supercars, then you can use all of the data on attendances and TV coverage from the supercars data, which is great data to have, and good data I still use to this day. So that would be my tip, but happy to go into that into more detail over email.
I have a question on that. Have you ever done it the other way, where you've identified a brand that you want to work with and then built your content and strategy to get that brand to join you or to sponsor you?
That's a great question. I have been giving some tips to drivers in some support categories lately, and I said to them, tailor each round now. So if you're going to Townsville, look, okay, well, what are the big companies in Townsville, but also get on the supercars website and see who's sponsoring the event. Because if they're there sponsoring the event and you're performing, well, maybe they'll put an extra 20 grand in and come on your car, or depending on what category we're talking, or sponsor you personally and you do some appearances at their stand. So be creative with the way you seek sponsors. Doesn't always have to be based locally, and you may just need to do some cold calling. But no, I haven't really had to do that, Priyanka, because we've been lucky enough that we built Mark's brand early, and we were able to pick and choose who we wanted to work with, and what brands we sort of aligned our values with.
Oh, fair enough. I thought I'd just ask the question.
Yeah.
You don't have to always do things one way. You can always try and find another way, right?
Absolutely.
Kate, do you want me to go ahead or do you want to take over?
No, well, we can do one each. I'll go one and then you do one. Okay, I'm going to do Taylor Purvis. Might have said that wrong. But anyway, Taylor has asked you, what kind of experience do marketing gurus like you look for? Would prior comms/media experience in karting be appealing for you?
I'm really open-minded. Like I said, do you need to have a bachelor degree? No. Do you need to have experience in the industry or understand how it works? Yes. So you need to understand how this business works and how fast-paced it is, and all of these areas that I work in. But really, it's about being able to talk, being able to be reliable and deliver. So they're the things I look for. Whether you've got past experience or not doesn't bother me. You just need to understand the industry and my requirements, and if you can fulfill them, then I'll give you an opportunity.
Yeah, fantastic. That's a good answer. I'm going to actually go down the list, Kate, and choose a random question. Is there anything in particular that you know now that you wish you knew when you started your career?
Oh, I think really I've given it to you, and that is how important it is to network and build relationships, and really work on that from day one. So I've had some girls from Girls on Track email me. They got my email address at the Grand Prix, and 2 in particular have kept in contact with me. And I'm really impressed with that. And they'll probably have opportunities with me in the future because of that. So build relationships, listen to what people need, and if you can assist them in one of those areas, just keep trying.
Okay, I'm going to go The next one, I'm going to go down the list a little bit too. Tarly Tracy, if your driver is still up and coming and doesn't feature on large scale broadcasts, what are some other ways to keep your sponsors happy?
That's a great question.
I agree.
I think it really comes down to wanting to get them invested in your career. So you're up and coming, you need their support. So I would really focus on that communication. They're probably not going to expect a lot from you. They're there really at that level. They're there to support you and try to help you get to the next level. So just make them feel part of it, communicate. And when I say communicate, the driver needs to be contacting their sponsor on a Monday morning after a race and saying, hey, Renee, I just wanted to fill you in on the weekend we just had. It was another weekend, like every motorsport weekend, and these are the results. Just make me feel part of it. Honestly, at that level, that's all it is. It really is. And then you've got the social media content as well. Be creative with your social media. We used to do lots of different things like live chats. Really, I mean, it doesn't cost a lot to do video content, to talk, to represent your brands. I mean, we would offer a certain amount of posts to sponsors and they could promote themselves. Like I said, social media is a very powerful marketing tool that companies invest money into. So it can be more genuine when it comes from an ambassador's point of view. So don't underestimate your value there either, but just build the relationships, make them feel part of it, and they might just go on the ride with you.
Wow. So every time you have a crap weekend, Frosty calls all his sponsors on a Monday and he's like, things didn't go so good this weekend, but thanks for being on board and love you long time.
I'm not going to lie, he doesn't do it every Monday. But
okay. But he still does it.
But they need to. Yeah, they need to.
Yeah. Well, obviously not every Monday because he doesn't have bad results every Monday, of course.
Yeah,
yeah.
They want to hear the information from the driver. They don't want to see a press release saying, oh, that's what happened, or Mark's got a new sponsor on his car, or you know, oh, they're racing in Singapore next year. Oh, damn, would have been nice to hear that from Mark. So, you know, a little phone call, fill them in on what's happening in the sport. It doesn't always have to be about results. Just, make sure they're informed of all the things that you know that are happening.
That they feel loved. They need to feel loved. Yeah.
That ties in the whole relationship thing. It's all about relationships, right? It's as simple.
Absolutely.
Like everything you've said.
Who you know.
Everything I'm taking away is relationships.
Absolutely.
They'll go to the grave with you if they like you enough.
They might last that long, Kate. It sounds like it.
I like Bridget's question.
Rossi's getting on, isn't he? No, I'm joking.
All right.
No, it's great.
Bridget, if you've not covered it already, how do you go with coaching and attending to Mark's welfare around events? Is there information you brief him on, or do you have systems on race day? Great question. And so the reason I think we've worked so well as a team and had so much success is because I look after everything behind the scenes and he just has to race on a race week. So that's really, really important, not to overload your driver with anything. They don't want to be doing social media updates. So you need to be really clever about that. There's so much that he does on a race weekend. His schedule is down to the minute. I'm lucky if I get 5 words from him. So I'll be clever with things so that I don't overload him. He'll be doing a TV interview and I'll stand close by so I can hear his comments, and I just put them down in my notes and there's my social media update. And I trained Renee to do the same. And so she wouldn't actually have to talk to him. She'd listen to a couple of interviews, or we'd stand beside him when he was debriefing, write some notes, great. we've still had his words, but we weren't overloading him with questions and time and requiring his input as such. So that's one thing. And then, you know what? It's so basic. Make sure they're eating. I would look at his calendar and his schedule and think, okay, he'd have time then where he can eat, and I'd have his food ready and literally hand it to him like a king. It's unbelievable what is required.
Feeding grapes at
Yeah,
the race
it's like,
track.
here's your food, here's your drink, make sure you have that now. Here's a banana. I mean, places like Bathurst, very important to look after their nutrition and hydration. And make sure they get enough sleep. It sounds so basic, but they need sleep. So unwinding, no eating at nighttime right before bed. So yeah, everything really is around doing what you can to assist their fitness and their health, and then looking after their representation. And if there are sponsors and fans there, engaging with them as well, so that if they don't get a piece of mark, at least they get some information from you.
Yeah, excellent.
The next question is a bit of ties into what you were saying. How do you balance being a manager with other areas of your life? So obviously you're a wife, you're a mom, you're a daughter, an aunt, the list goes on. So how do you balance it all?
I mean, when you're a parent, you get very good at multitasking, and everything seems easy compared to being a mum. Like, when you're a mum, no one tells you that you need to have your doctorate because they're going to come to you with an illness or an injury every day, and you need to be a counsellor and a psychologist and all these things. Like, to me, looking after mum's easy. It's yeah. I mean, the kids, I have 2 days a week where I focus on the business, but if you can't do it, you have to outsource. If you feel like you're not doing a good job in one area and it needs attention, for me, back a couple of years ago, it was the social media. I needed assistance with that. I knew how valuable it was, and I knew we could do better and do more, so I outsourced it. You can only do what you're capable of in the time that you've got each week, but I love a default diary, and I love blocking out time in my calendar, and I'm very organized. Like, I have every daily task in my calendar that I want to achieve. If I can't do it, I move it on. I'm not one of those people that just sort of wing it or forget what's happening. And yeah, whereas Mark's not like that. He doesn't put things in his calendar. He doesn't write notes. So that's why he needs me.
Yeah.
As you, yes. Oh my God, we all need one of you, Renee.
I need one.
Yeah, totally. Pri, how many more questions would you like to go?
We've got about 10 minutes. You can shoot through a few more.
Okay, cool. I'm going to. This one's very specific and focused, from Tara McIlroy. I currently manage Nathan Quinn in the Australian Rally Championship, and the biggest challenge I've found with proposals is being able to show the ROI to a sponsor in dollar value. Obviously, reach and engagement is key, but how does this translate for the sponsor, and how do we measure this other than views and engagement metrics?
It's a good question. So it's not just about social media. You want to be getting that coverage dollar on television. So look, even if it means you're paying someone to document how many minutes of coverage that this particular driver is getting, both externally for himself and his helmet and the car, then that's what you have to do. You can pay for that service from media monitors, and you might find that the Australian Rally has access to that information if you seek it. So it took me a while, but I eventually worked out that some of the race teams we previously raced for had all this information that they never shared with me, and I was like, oh, wow, that is really good, valuable information. And it might be as simple as collecting newspaper articles, collecting all of the print media that they're involved in, whether it's being interviewed. And, you know, this is all valuable. This is all about building a brand, and then it's about how that sponsor can leverage the intellectual property and the brand of the driver. So what can they do? And the things that they can do, it's not always a dollar value. It might be about making it's about making an experience for customers sometimes. So, you know, one thing that our sponsors love is Mark to attend events that they have. It might be a dinner with builders, and he's the special guest. And if that's why I'm sort of emphasizing that likability and the personality, because if you're likable and you can engage with people and you make them feel special and give them a special experience, then that's value as well. And we've found that that's the case with Mark. So, so don't focus only on the return of investment in a dollar term. I have given you some ideas, but also look at the added value that you can do in person using the brand and the likability of your driver.
Yeah, so much more to being a
Right.
driver than
Answer.
just, you know, getting on track results. So that's important.
And you can see the difference when you look around and you look at different fields and categories. And Kate, you would have it too. You experience different drivers, and the ones that can talk and be relatable, and the ones that have worked on their, you know, being personable and really opening their personality are very successful. It's the proof is really there.
Well, they're the ones that I'm going to go and interview, because I don't want to talk to you otherwise if you're going to be a pain in the ass and not give me anything. So be nice, or don't get any airtime for your sponsors. You know, if you're not up the front and they're not covering you, then how are you going to get airtime? Because the reporters love you, or whoever else loves you. Like, because you've made an effort to go and have a chat and make them feel special, like, you know, they're part of your community, and then you'll repay that by chatting to them on the grid or whatever.
There you go.
Yeah.
We've got a good question, or great question actually, from Tanea. Hey Renee, what were some of the early tips you gave me when we started working together way back? Do you remember?
Well, let me think. You had to
over deliver.
She had to learn her driver because she was Mark. So she had to learn very quickly how to write like Mark, how fans like to be engaged with. But I think I'd probably recover some of the things I've said about being professional, talking, being able to talk. And I know it sounds so simple, but you need to be able to have a conversation and present yourself well and professionally. And learning your industry and learning how you can add value, because you, Tanea, had so many skills that I didn't have, and you I identified that you were passionate, you had passion, so, and you were interested in a skill set that I didn't have. So just do what comes naturally to you, and identify opportunities that haven't been pursued yet.
Love it. So great. Are you happy with that, Tanea? Good. Next question. Bridget Bell, what expectations do sponsors have of Mark when attending appearances? Do you have a structure for these?
Okay, good question. It's probably more our set guidelines of an appearance. So appearances range from 30 minutes to 2 hours, I would say, never really any longer than that. And because it's quite intensive, everyone will want a piece of Mark. So it's a lot of talking, and it's actually exhausting. All that small talk and, you know, people asking you the same question over and over, you can only do it for a certain amount of time. But really, they want you to engage with whoever they've got and whoever they're trying to impress, and make a difference and make these people feel special. So if you're a driver and going to attend a sponsor's event and talk to the company only, then you're doing a disservice to them. So put yourself out there, work the room, and that's what they want. Like, they really want you to work the room.
It's hard, but you've got to do it.
It's a really, really important skill to have.
But you did it really well at our Grand Prix event. You're Renee, not me.
I love that.
Huh?
Talk to everyone.
Not you. Just kidding. This question's been asked twice. What's the most enjoyable part of your role?
Oh. I mean, I'd be crazy if I didn't say being part of the on-track performance. You know, it's amazing to be part of success, and I'm sure Renee would agree. Like, being able to be there when you get a result and feel that excitement is like nothing really compares. So it's been thrilling over the years, but I'm telling you, there are as many lows as there are highs, but the highs make up for it. So definitely being part of a thrilling, exciting, competitive industry.
Okay, one more.
It's a good one from Angelique Vitale. I can only imagine how difficult it must have been for Kimi, I'm guessing Kimi Raikkonen's manager. How would you suggest trying to get the most out of a more closed-off driver in regards to sponsor content and events? I'd probably fire him or come back to him in 2 years' time. But what would you say, Renee?
Look, I think there is an opportunity here for someone like me to start a business, because the more I look around, I think that there is so much media training required. When Mark first started racing, he did intensive media training. So that doesn't happen now, and I can see the difference, and it'll just give confidence to people who don't have it naturally. They have to learn to talk and learn to engage and learn all these skills that we've talked about tonight, because it will make the difference between how long their career lasts. At the end of the day, Mark's raced for over 20 years now. You know, one of the top 3 drivers to do that, and it's these things that make that happen, because his relationships have meant that sponsors are still on his car year after year because they want to be on his car. He hasn't won in 7 years, so it wasn't about the performance. It was about everything else. It was about the relationships. It was about the brand that he's created. It was about him making a difference to sponsors and their supporters. And yeah, so they need the media training, but they have to want it. You can't force it. Some drivers want to do it and others don't. Some don't know how or where to turn to, and they're the ones that you can definitely guide and get training for and experience, but they have to put in the work. Yeah, it's not.
And it's so interesting with like the female competitors that I work with in motocross. They are all really motivated and just so fantastic to work with. I don't know if it's still a bit of toxic masculinity or just confidence. There could be anything behind it in terms of if they're shy or they don't want to talk. Yeah, it's probably just working out what their issue is as well.
I just think drivers need to know that it's not just about their driving skill. That's only the service that they provide on track. There's a whole lot of other things that Mark does more than he does driving. So, yeah, you have to work on the whole package.
Yeah, great tip. Okay, Cree, shall we wrap it?
Thank you.
To those who dialed in and asked all these fantastic, fabulous questions tonight, thank you so much. We're really excited to be heading to Sandown next, followed by a few more events on the Sunshine Coast and Sydney. and in Adelaide. So we really hope that we get to see some of you there soon. Be sure to come up and introduce yourselves. A huge thank you to Renee for her time. So good to have you chatting, Renee. You are just a wealth of information. Yeah, we're just so lucky to be supported by so many incredible professionals within this sport. And it's just great to be able to provide these resources for all of you out there watching this webinar. And creating this amazing community. If you want more information about the Girls on Track program and how we can assist, be sure to bombard Priyanka with 8 million emails at girlsontrack@motorsport.org. And that is it. Thank you so much for listening to my waffling and Renee's incredible answers to the questions, and Priyanka for hosting.
Thank you, Renee. That was fabulous. And thank you, Kate, as well. And Renee, we hope to see you at Sandown. I actually need to send you an email about that. But yeah, I'll do that soon.
Sounds great. Thank you for having me, and thank you both. That was a great experience.
Thank you. Good night, everyone. See ya.
Bye.